Hi, welcome for our online training sessions. In this session, we are going to discuss what is pay alone invoice and how to configure this. When the organizations are going to make the payments to the suppliers, we have the facility to generate the payment option, separate check for every invoice, and single check for multiple invoices also. We have that option. In that scenario, some of the supplier sites wants to have an individual checks, nothing but separate checks for every invoice that we have to configure at supplier site level. First, we have to log in as a buyer for your business unit so that we can access the supplier site information. Otherwise, we cannot access supplier site information. Let's go to suppliers. Now go to the task list here. Search for the supplier here, manage suppliers. We can use existing supplier, or if at all we want to create a new supplier, we can create. It won't take much time, maximum 5 minutes. I'm going to say that HP supplier, business relations with spend authorized corporation. Let's go for create this supplier here. Let's go for create an address here. I'm going to use this address for ordering as well as for RFQ or bidding purpose. Let me go for save and close here. Let's go for save this record. After that, we'll go for define the site. It's showing that an address must exist before creating a site. Because we created supplier address successfully, let's submit for approval. If it is auto approval, then it's fine. Otherwise, we need to cross check. We can find here HP supplier we have created. And we can find this icon here. A profile change request is pending for this supplier. It means it's waiting for approval. It's waiting for approval over here. It is. Now click search button. If it is auto approve, after a couple of minutes, it will be automatically approved. How to find whether it's approved or not? We don't find this icon here. We don't find this icon over here. Let's click search button. It may take a couple of minutes time. Perhaps you will be receiving a notification also saying that the supplier address has been approved successfully here. If at all we want to verify whether it's auto approval or waiting for some approval from someone else, then what we have to do is we have to go to FSM environment. This employee does not have the access to FSM. Let's log in with another employee and cross check approvals are enabled or not for the suppliers. I'm just trying to log in with our implementation user. who is having the access to FSM. What is the role required for this? Application implementation consultant. That's the role is required. Go to navigator, go to user menu, setup and maintenance here. Go to procurement, suppliers, approval management. Sorry, not the suppliers. Let's go to approval management. We'll find initially, we'll see that requisition approvals, purchasing document approvals, because those are required tasks here. Those are required tasks here. Let's go for all tasks here. We have all tasks here. In this, we are going to verify two things mainly: supplier spend authorization approval, because we are creating the spend authorized suppliers now. Another one is internal supplier profile change approvals. These two we are going to cross check. Let's go to supplier spend authorization approvals. And we can find here the approval is enabled. Approval is enabled here. Let me cross check. Edit rules. It's automatic approval. That's fine. Next, internal supplier profile change approvals. And this particular process has been enabled for here. And go for edit rules. It's also automatic. It means approvals are not enabled for this with any different options, action type like supervisor hierarchy or job level hierarchy. Right now it's automatic approval, so we don't need to worry about this. Let's come back here. And let me log in with buyer. When we want to work with supplier sites, we must log in as a buyer. Then only we'll be able to work. So here's our buyer, Calvin Roth is the buyer. Let's log in. Let's go to navigator. Procurement, suppliers. Now we can find it's auto approval. It took some time, couple of minutes to get approval. We don't have this icon. It means your supplier has approved successfully. Let's go for edit. Go to address. We can find the address here. Go to sites. Now we are going to create a supplier site here. Whatever the business unit this buyer is working, for those business unit, you can go for create a supplier site. I'm creating supplier site here. Right now, the concept is for this site, when we are going to make the payment, we want to allow single invoice at a time. Let's save the supplier site. After creating the supplier site, assign this site to the business unit. You can use this button. It will automatically assign to the business units which this buyer is working. And we can find this tab called payments. Go to the payment attributes, go to payment specifications. There is a checkbox here, pay each invoice alone. For this supplier site, whenever you are going to make the payment, for each invoice alone, we are supposed to make the payment over here. Okay, save this. Save and close. So we configured supplier successfully and we have enabled pay alone invoice option also. Let's log in as a account payables user and let's start raise the invoice. We'll raise couple of invoices and try to make the payment for both the invoice at a time. System should not allow to make the payment in single payment, means in a single check, multiple invoices. It should not allow. It should allow us to take individual check for every invoice. Let's go for create an invoice, payables and invoices. Make sure that you have account payables roles added to your employee and then data access is provided. Let me create an invoice here. I can find the business unit here. And I'm going to choose the supplier. Supplier site and legal entity we got. I'm going to create two invoices, HP1, amount $1,000. Let me enter the lines information here. And choose some distribution combination here. Click search button to get built-in combinations. You can quickly access from here. And for this business unit, I think the tax has been enabled so that we'll find tax calculation here. Remove this tax calculation. Okay, TS code. Someone has added this tax calculation. Let's go for edit taxes. I'm going to make it as 0. Our system kept an invoice, and in fact, the budget is enabled for this invoice. It's okay. And let's go to here. Your invoice is on hold. Maybe this invoice is showing that purchase order is matching. Matching is required. Invoice is not matched to any purchase order. Generally, if we are going to raise the invoice based on the purchase order, we can put it here. You can find your purchase order details. And where do we mention that PO? Here, identifying the purchase order here. Now what we'll do is manually we'll go for release this system hold. Let me put it here. Its invoice is validated successfully and released. And then let me cross-check the installments and payment method is check payment method. Everything is fine. Go for save and close. We can find here itself, checkbox. Pay alone option is there. So it means whatever the setup we have done, it's working. So when we try to make the payment for this invoice, if you include any other invoices, then obviously it's going to reject during the payment because it's enabled here. For example, you want to give the permission at the time of creating the invoice, you can uncheck this, save and close. Then it will allow. By default, what happened, whatever the value we have enabled at supplier site level, it's automatically enabled. So by default, it comes here, then we can find here. Either we can continue, depends on the requirement. If at all not requirement, then we will go ahead with the removing checkbox and make the payment for multiple invoices at a time. Let's go for save and close, save and create another invoice here. We created two invoices here. Let me go for validate this invoice, also making the tax as 0. Otherwise, what happened? We can find two holes here. The moment when we try, system is showing that needs revaluation. Click on this. How many reasons are there? Your invoice is on hold, system hold. There are two reasons. One reason is line level. We have a differentiation. Line level amount is not equal to the header level amount. This we have. Now we can find. So what I'm trying to do is, let me go for edit the taxes here. This manually I'm going to release. Save the invoice and go for validate. And of course, whatever the invoices we raise for this particular supplier site, system will automatically enable the pay alone option. Where do we find that? When we go for manage installments, we can find here pay alone checkbox, and payment method we can find here. Let's go for save and close. This is how we can go for set up the pay alone invoice option while creating an invoice, whether this setup has been populated or not. That. So let's go for make the payment. Choose the business unit here. Who is the supplier for this supplier site? We are going to make the quick payment, and from which bank we are going to disburse this amount. Choose the bank account. I'm going to select Bank of America. This is our bank account, and then payment currency, payment method is check, and payment process profile. I'm going to take a standard check format, and payment document. Check stock numbers. This is payment document number. Here we will go for choose the invoices for this supplier. There are two invoices here, HP1 invoice and HP2 invoices. Here itself we can find the pay alone option is enabled for both the invoices. So if I try to choose, if I try to use shift button, both the invoices, then we will get error message here. You cannot pay this invoice with other invoices because it's a pay alone invoice, or you already selected a pay alone invoice here. So here We can make the payment for every invoice, means individually we have to issue the check. Over here it is. Let's go for save and close. Then we'll second invoice payment, we'll do it in the same way. This is having some issue with the payment funds. I think budget is enabled for our ledger, US primary ledger. This there we don't have the budget amount. That's what it is showing error. But anyway, whatever the task we have started the session topic, it's clearly showing the result. Okay. So this is how we can work with the pay alone options. Thank you.